America, land of the free, home of the wide open spaces, the American dream, once realizable for so many. But are we still heading in the right direction? Is there a good and beautiful future that we feel we're going towards? Is there someone who can lead us there? Does anyone have a vision of what this good future looks like? Perhaps it could emerge through the vote of the people. But what happens when the public is sharply divided into two mutually exclusive camps, the values in each one sometimes seeming more important than life itself? Is the only solution then to forcibly rule over the other side, disallowing their perspective to see the light of day? And how long will it be possible before the other side comes to rule over us with vindictive exactitude? Or maybe this collective strife simply can't be solved at the level at which it was created. Like feuding children who can't resolve their fight until a parent steps in. But in our situation, when all our systems begin to show signs of wear and breakdown, who can step in? Over the past century, America was that parent intervening in the affairs of other countries, coming with democracy and capitalism to fix things up.
We know that American capitalism is morally right because its chief elements, private ownership, the profit motive, and the competitive market are wholesome and good. They are compatible with God's laws.
But how is this system working now, both here and abroad? It's been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others that have been tried. And this is what we're seeing today, that this system is only the least of all evils, better than dictatorial communism or straight-up tyranny. But in the long term, is it sustainable? What if there was a system of government, economy, relationships between people that we just haven't tried yet, that could provide every person with the essence of the American dream, that kernel that stands behind it, which everyone has been chasing for the last 100 years and throughout history? What if there were a book that detailed the form that society would inevitably take 10,000 years in the future? After all of the wars, suffering, disease outbreaks, economic collapses that would inevitably force us to want to take upon ourselves this new form of living. Do you think we'd be able to unite around implementing such a form without suffering? Or do you think that the suffering is somehow necessary to push us to actually want it? Until now, throughout our history, we have been those feuding kids who don't stop fighting until the parent intervenes. But there's no parent to intervene, and thus we have not grown. What once was, still is, only expressed in new fractals of the same. If not control in one way, control in another way, in unseen, more sophisticated ways. Ways that ensure that our power will not be overthrown. The thirst for power and riches, if not possible alone, then together. If not possible alone, then together. You too can be king.
This Buick's a beaut.
I'll try it. Ooh, what a dreamy ride.
Everyone can be king. You too can be rich. We can all live like kings. This is the American dream. But has it lasted? Things are different, but we have not grown. Any excess, any luxury requires slavery of some kind. The riches of one require the deprivation of another, even if they are unseen or have no voice.
For the plantation owner and his family, it was an aristocratic kind of society. Gentle manners, courtesy, hospitality. The buildings included the planter's home, a mill, and a row of small cabins for the slaves, who did almost all the work.
There's a reason for this that has nothing to do with the lack of abundance, but there is a law of nature that necessitates it. Every empire, whether this one or this one, requires enslavement and deprivation of others. No one is to blame, no one is alone in this wrong, and no one is more wrong than another. Because all of our history is the history of the human ego expressing itself. And the ego is simply the desire to receive pleasure that wants to always have it as good as possible and have as little bad as possible. This is the essence of each and every person and every creature on earth. We all have this desire to have it good. And so no matter how much I care about other people, I always prefer this desire that exists in me to that desire which exists in you. At the end of the day, I will always choose what is best for me over what is best for you, unless your good is included in my good. And this internal definition of what is good, this system of values, is as deep as the ocean and different for each and every person, such that if we would really scrutinize it, sort it out, and find out what these definitions really are inside of a person, we would find that we have not 2 parties in America, but 330 million parties, none of them having anything in common with any of the others, no crossover in the Venn diagram. And each person, by their nature, were this revealed to them, would be happy to see all 330 million other people in the United States conforming to one's own definition of what is good. Obviously, it can't work in this way. And what we're seeing today in the brokenness of our systems is just the revelation of the differences that truly exist between us. And there's nothing wrong with this originality, the fact that each person is sui generis, completely unique, irreplaceable, possessing something special to contribute to a general system that in itself is perfect and includes all of us. And that is why there really can be no repetition between people. Nothing is redundant. This also makes it so that our views are only temporarily reconcilable, like roommates that live together peacefully for a while, or a husband and wife, gradually revealing their differences of opinions. And when these differences emerge, so do the problems. Because the ego, this desire to receive pleasure, to have it good and not bad, is constantly growing, constantly emerging, being revealed more and more. And in the United States and throughout the world, we simply reveal this irreconcilability of all of these differences because each of us is so perfect and unique that we reach a state where there is no system of government that can keep us together, but we have nowhere to go. We're enclosed on a tiny planet. Moreover, we don't feel that we belong to a single system with all of the rest of humanity and all of reality. But the wisdom of Kabbalah, that book from 10,000 years in the future, says that we do, says that we are one. This limited perception causes us to always want to solve our problems using the same broken tools that seemed to work in the past. But this is like trying to solve the problems in a broken marriage by simply doing what you did when you first started dating, by going out to a restaurant. You see that at that restaurant, what happens is the couple just fights just like they do at home. It's not a solution to the level of egoism they're now facing. Though before, they could sit in that restaurant and look at each other starry-eyed. So what is really in conflict between us? It's our internal definitions, our value systems, our definition of what is good. On the national scale or the global scale even, we can call it the American dream. And when we imagine this dream, we imagine stuff, things, matter, cars, houses, money, fame.
A magnificent Eldorado town car by Cadillac.
Ensemble by Christian Dior of Paris.
But these things, these achievements, are only incidental to the inner feeling that they are supposed to bring us to. There's merely a correlative relationship between the stuff and the inner this inner feeling that this is good. Our whole lives are really about reaching this inner good feeling. When I'm driving a fancy car, it's not about the wheels or the metal. It's about that inner feeling that arrives in me as I'm driving it. When I'm with a person that I love, it's not about their flesh, their protein body. It's about this inner feeling that I have when I'm with them. So the American dream and everything that it includes from A to Z is all a means to reaching this inner good feeling. The great majority of us never achieving it to the fullest, and nobody attaining it in a way that is truly sustainable. The wisdom of Kabbalah is a method rooted in the laws of nature by which this inner good feeling can be both sustainable and attainable to everyone. A special method is required since all of this is attainable in the opposite direction to what seems natural to us, meaning we try to attain our dreams in competition with others, at the expense of others, as independently as possible, which is opposite to the true reality, which is that we all belong to one system. All of our differences complementing each other like cells in a body that work towards one goal, the health and well-being of the body. Therefore, the social and political climate is fraught. Like children whose disagreements have spun out of control, we can't resolve our problems without a higher authority intervening. And there's nothing but wars and additional suffering on the horizon. But maybe we're missing the point. This book of the future, this collection of writings called The Wisdom of Kabbalah, that describes the inevitable forms of human relationships that will exist in the future, either through great suffering or by us striving to attain this form of relationships between us. It explains that we are truly like children who were left home alone by our parents, not so that we would play out a Lord of the Flies type scenario with nuclear bombs, inflicting suffering on one another, as we have done throughout history. Parents don't leave their teenagers home alone so that they will throw the party of the century, but rather what they want is that the child will act in a mature way, like an adult, as though the parent were there looking over them. Now, who has left us for all of history alone to discover our connection between us? Well, it's nature itself, the singular governing force of reality that governs everything, including us, and includes all of those disparate parts, those 7 billion people. It concealed itself. And this means that it left us home alone in order for us to discover the connection between us, by which we discover equivalence of form with that one force. Meaning through the good connection between us, through our inner attitude towards each other, we become like that force's attitude towards all of humanity and the entire universe. Because this is the greatest gift that you can give to your child, to bring them to maturity, to be big, to be like you. And being like this singular force of nature, this parent that created us, that gave birth to us and the entire universe, is the greatest inner feeling that can exist. It's what we're really chasing in all of this matter that we chase. This is possible in each and every cell of this single body that includes all of humanity. And it doesn't require anyone to change their opinion, their perspective, to conform to the perspective of the others, to some majority perspective. Rather, each and everyone's perspective, meaning their inner definition of good, needs to remain as it is, unchanged for all eternity, because it's a special point, a special part of this singular system to which we all belong. We only need to open up this perception that we belong to this system. We can do so by even just slight internal movements towards this reality that we don't yet feel, and gradually we can start to feel it. What are these movements? They're not movements away from wanting to have it good or even to have wealth, but movements away from wanting to cancel the opinions of others, wishing for them to disappear or subjugate. All of these opinions, meaning these desires for goodness that are represented in various ways, are actually the spices for the dish that we must create together, indispensable parts of the body to which we all belong. But this begs the question, who will govern? Who will rule all of these billions of people? Well, in the correct connection between us, that parent, that adult figure, that force of nature, inheres and comes to show us the correct form of government, economy, relationships between us. And we discover in this connection between us that not only can we realize democracy, but we can reach a unanimous decision, like a family that decides together what they all want to do, because they feel that they belong to each other and that they're going in one direction. Kabbalists discovered that as a person moves in the direction of this correct perception, problems disappear. The suffering of this world, both on the individual and collective level, that was coming in order to push us towards this correct perception, this suffering simply goes away because it's not required anymore because we're going in this direction on our own. So the dead end that we're reaching in science, in economy, in the ability for people to attain wealth, all of this is so that we'll see at that dead end in the darkest place that there's actually a door. But this door we can only go through together. It's like a special combination lock that only works if one's attitude towards the entire world is connected as one. And this Kabbalists call 1,000 go into a room and only one comes out to the light. The 999 that enter that dark room is us with our current attitudes towards one another. And the one that comes out to the light is the whole of humanity united as one.